What if every person who has ever irritated you, threatened you, disappointed you was never the problem? What if you've been in an argument with your own mirror this whole time and losing? There's a 10th century scientist and a 13th century mystic who arrived at the same answer from completely different directions. And the answer is uncomfortable. You don't see the world as it is, you see the world as your heart is. Tonight, we are going to find out what that means and what's actually on your mirror. So, most people assume they see reality as it is. Is that true?
No one truly sees reality. You can't see reality directly. You assume your reality depending on the conditions. And these conditions depend on your instrument. And this instrument is in your own body. Let's not go into the details. If you really want to, you have two people to look up to. One is Ibn Arabi, and the second is Ibn Haytham. These are 10th to 12th century mystics as well as polymaths. And they explain through the lens of light, through how light behaves. Because your heart, your instrument, it's not just limited to the body, it goes much deeper. I mean, you really need to understand what kind of an instrument you are, what kind of a mirror you are. The word mirror over here, this will guide you to what you really are and what perspective of reality you're perceiving.
So, what is this mirror?
Well, let me give you a heavy word. The word is Qalb. It's an old word. It comes from the Sufi tradition, but what this word basically means is your center. Okay? The Sufis mostly talk about your chest, but this is not literally the chest. Think of your Qalb as a byproduct of how your organs are functioning. Now, your organs move in what you call a certain level of synchronity, a kind of cosmic dance when everything is synced. Everything follows a kind of a constant rhythm. That is when you tune your instrument. As long as your instrument is not tuned, everything you do, none of it will make, I don't know if using the word sense would suffice. None of it will feel fulfilling or satisfying. Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, I mean, it does, but if the mirror can show us reality clearly, why doesn't it do that all the time?
I would like to add a little bit of an extra thought here.
Go ahead.
The mirror we have, which we use today in the 21st century, it's really not that old. It was developed like, 100, 200, 300 years ago? It's a specific process through which you have a mirror which is always reflecting reality. When we talk about these metaphors that Ibn Arabi, even Rumi is using, he's talking about the old mirrors. These mirrors were more about a process. You see, you could turn brass into something shiny. You would have to wait for the right moment for the water to reflect you perfectly. You could pretty much convert anything into a mirror if you polish it the right way. And this is what is being referred over here. Your heart is not just an organ. It's a reflector and a creator of consciousness to a certain extent. What you're seeing is what you're absorbing and what's being reflected back as well. We'll have to go a little bit into technicalities here. I hope you would allow me to do that.
Go ahead.
Because the question is, what is reality? As per your instrument, reality is what you are seeing through your eyes. If I may, this is what the general public is like, right? Majority people would not believe in something till they see it. All right?
Yeah, this has been happening quite a lot lately.
And that is when you begin to fail. Just because you can't see something doesn't mean it doesn't exist. We open two really, really deep branches of understanding over here. One is what you are perceiving, and one, what you are projecting. What you are perceiving can be understood by understanding reflection, how light reflects. And what you are projecting can be better understood by refraction. Surprised?
Yeah, because those are basic principles of how light works, right? There's law of reflection and then there's law of refraction, but how does it? I mean, are you using that as a metaphor? Or do you mean literally that's what it is?
How about we see it as a technique, as a formula that we can apply to our own selves?
Okay.
Okay, let's go basic. You asked me something regarding reality, how to see reality clearly, right? So I have a quote directly from the Quran.
All right.
Okay, it literally says that what they used to do has cast rust upon their hearts.
So what they did. Okay. This is interesting.
And over here, Quran is again giving us a visual reference of something which is very esoteric, right? Rust you can see.
Yes.
But can you imagine how much time it takes for rust to appear?
Takes a lot of time.
The item on which rust is actually developing, it won't understand rust as something separate. It would actually take it as something of its own kind,
But
its own extension.
It also depends on what kind of extremities that specific metal or that material is being exposed to. So if it's hard water on steel or metal, it's going to rust in a day. Sometimes it takes quite a while for things to rust out. So it depends what kind of water you're in.
I would have to quote Al-Ghazali here.
All right.
See, now you understand what rust can represent. The rust can also be arrogance. The rust can be envy. The rust can also represent approval. That's a good kind of rust. That won't literally mutate the object. It might actually, polish it better, make it even more reflective. You could even go into positive attachments, things which ground you instead of attachments which give you validation. This is best explained by Al-Ghazali. But again, I talk about states. I talk about expressions. Literally, these are states you go through. Arrogance is an emotion as well as a state. Approval or, learning to detach and still being connected, that's a state. So these are not something you achieve. These are things you experience. And by experiencing them, you develop the sense of the rust, how it's contaminating the heart. Because if rust is developing, it's not reflecting. It's refracting and absorbing.
So
You have to literally connect the dots in your own life. You have to see things on a longer time scale. See, in the 21st century, the biggest issue we have is time. Because attention span at the moment has shrunken to seconds, I guess. It's down to 5 to 7 seconds. I'm literally talking about the majority there. So if you cannot even observe 5 to 10 seconds and get distracted, how will you ever notice the rust? The rust or the removal of the rust, if you go ahead and try to remove rust from anything, that takes hard labor. And you can't just go aggressively and pull it all off. It'll just damage the metal underneath it. You have to go through a process, slow and easy, and keep double checking. That's what we're trying to figure out and kind of explain in simple terms over here. This process can be very, very personal. It can be very subjective on how to remove the rust. And you can only know that exact process if you have that level of metacognition in you, that you're observing the rust forming in you. Is that too much?
No, I think I follow your chain of thought. Basically, you are using this metaphor of a heart being the mirror and the rust that encompasses it or takes over parts of it. But it's not always negative. It could be positive. But at the end of the day, that rust is what really distorts your reality. The reality distortion field. That is your lens, basically. You're putting a lens in front of the mirror through which you perceive the world through your own experience.
Hence the word rust.
Hence the word rust.
Because rust is also a lens.
I think, yes, rust is more, it is more apt here because it has an organic quality towards it. A lens is always very, very specific, sometimes even accurate, but rust can develop or can shed away over time, and parts of it can still remain. So I do understand. So that's your heart, right? So basically, this is your reality distortion field. But like, now here's the thing. Like, if we put it in very grounding terms, if we come back to reality for a second, most people, even I do sometimes, in fact, more than often, that I feel like my perception is accurate because that's how I perceive reality. So how do you know when you're seeing clearly versus seeing a distortion? That's the trap I feel like most people fall in. They have the right intentions, so to speak, but they don't know if they have a distorted sense of reality.
Well, yeah, that is exactly why I chose the Sufi mirror as a reference over here.
Okay.
Because the properties of a mirror and how a mirror behaves when light interacts with it is literally how we need to behave to first identify the rust.
Okay.
If you cannot identify the rust, if you cannot identify the dust, in the case of a mirror, how would you know to clean it? You would keep using it in the same way. See, if your perception, or if there is a lens or something distorting the light before it reaches you, for you that will be the perception, because you can't see the blockage in between. To see the blockage, you need to understand what I call basic physics, basic optics, literally reflection and refraction. See, whatever you are centered towards is what's going to manifest, and manifest is literally reflecting what you want to center yourself on. Most people assume manifestation is creating something out of nowhere, but on its very core, manifestation is aligning yourself to reflect a probabilistic reality into a materialistic reality. This might sound too heavy to understand because quantum physics is where you're most easily able to
It makes perfect sense.
break it down and make an equation out of it.
Or just put it in basic concepts, meaning, dude, like, if you want to get somewhere, if you want to do something, become that person today. So if you want to climb a mountain,
You need to think like a mountain.
and you become that person who
You
has
become a
already
mountain.
climbed it, meaning in order to become that person, you need to train a certain way.
Train
You
a
need to
certain
get your body at a point where, as if you were the person who has just climbed a mountain, that big ass mountain that you have been eyeing at. So that is literally, you are creating reality distortion feeds on purpose through your intent. Is that what you're saying?
I will also give you a practical way to test it. Okay? Literally think of it this way. Whatever you are perceiving, you're also reflecting. Your mindset is literally defined by how you see your reality. Just observe people randomly for 15 to 20 minutes and see what kind of observations you're making. That is the energy you are attuned to. I'm not kidding. It literally varies person to person. You and your wife could have completely tangent perceptions, completely different ways of looking at someone. And if you're not aware of the rust in the system, the dissonance will keep increasing.
So basically, I need to be aware of her rust and she needs to be aware of mine, because we do have different perceptions and perspectives on a specific situation, person, principle, what have you. Of course, we're different people. That's normal. But I get what you're saying. If we are aware of each other's rusts, if we are aware of each other's experiences, perceptions, just being aware of it, that this other person thinks this certain way because they are coming from this specific background or they have had this specific experience. It really helps humanize the whole thing. So you don't treat them as the villain or the antagonist. You actually treat them as a fellow human being who's just different from you.
Push it up a notch. You are that person.
Yeah, exactly.
If you are jealous of someone, you feel jealousy with someone. That element of jealousy is actually lack of effort or lack of skill that you have in your own self.
Yes.
It's literally, this is how the Sufis use the heart as a mirror to fine-tune themselves.
So they would Okay.
They're firstly classifying reflection and refraction. Reflection, perfect reflection, is that the angle of incidence will match to the angle of reflection. What is going in, exactly the same thing will come out. There will be no distortions to it, no biases to it, no emotions attached to it. You will see things as it is. You will not call it a chair. You will just observe something there.
I see.
The moment you start labeling, that is the first indication that you have started developing rust. This is me being very clear.
Or you have started refracting light instead of reflecting it.
That's the next level, yes.
Yeah.
If you're aware of the rust, the refraction can help you.
Because you can then calibrate it or use it to your advantage. That makes perfect sense. So, so is it possible the mirror gets so distorted that you can't trust anything you see? Push it to the complete extreme. Good or bad, no, that does not matter here. But it's so distorted that you realize you cannot trust anything at all.
Okay. So this is more of a technical question.
Okay.
Because you're literally asking that the heart has somehow warped or physically deformed. Because that physical deformation will reflect on the personality. And it works okay, let's break it down into two phases. A rusted heart, or a clogged heart, or a deformed heart. A rusted heart could develop problems just by practicing wrong actions or having wrong thoughts. But a deformed heart could... this is where alignment sessions and clarity sessions come into play. You've been practicing something which you think is right, but is actually on the other side of the scale. So it physically affects you. The negative mindset, labeled as something positive, will start manifesting in a physical form within your body. In that case, you need a lot of work. Okay, the second one, this is dangerous stuff. This is you need to treat it like you have tuberculosis or like type 1 diabetes. Okay, that would take weeks, months even to fix. But if it's rust, you can remove it on your own. If it's just a weakened heart or a hardened heart, by connecting to your environment, in a way, shuts down the prefrontal cortex. It shuts down your sense of self.
Yeah, I can see that manifesting.
That also takes time,
yeah.
But that's something you can achieve on your own. The second one, it gets tricky. In the 21st century, it really does get tricky. You need someone who has that energy. As someone who's suffering from a warped heart, it's not just broken, it's mutated. You need someone with a whole heart in front of you physically so that your body has a reference point to heal it.
Basically, you need a healer.
Yes. I would literally give you an example of an energy healer to whom I went myself.
Really? Do tell.
Well, let me just go back to the word Qalb again for a moment, okay? Because the word Qalb is metaphysical technology when it comes to the Sufis. Okay, the Qalb is a pressure point where your intention is not only manifesting but projecting as well. Firstly, through your body, then through your thoughts. Through your body by combining oxygen and blood and circulating it through your system. So when you're talking about energy healing, what you're talking about is literally synchronizing with someone's heart frequency. When you interact with an energy healer, the moment they start the process, okay, I've experienced this multiple times. They synchronize to you and they know everything about you. Now, how is this happening? Their Qalb or their sense of self is so explicitly clear in their heads that the moment they start the process is actually shutting their own sense of identity completely off. They become a mirror. And through that mirror, the energy healer first identifies the energy, whether it's coming through reflection or refraction. And according to what is being reflected, because every single color the energy healer is seeing represents a certain emotion. It represents a certain mindset. According to that, then they would give you affirmations. And this is a 45-minute process. And I guarantee you, by the end of the process, you will feel better. Because this is literally technology. This is Qalb technology. Okay? This is hard technology. Sufis use it in a different way. But energy healers, Reiki healers, Samda healers, you will find them a lot nowadays. It's actually a profession. What they're doing is making sure their body is so perfectly tuned to their mind and their soul that when someone throws refracted light at them, it ends up reflecting again. It removes the hardness from that frequency they're throwing, because whatever that frequency is, whatever that bio light is which is coming out of the patient, is literally being projected by either a damaged mental thought or a damaged organ. I mean, these processes are being used to actually heal physical people. I'm not that qualified at all, not that skilled, but I assure you, there are people who've been practicing these energy techniques for more than 1 decade. That's when you're able to even heal physical organs just by meditating on them. There are multiple processes to this. But nowadays, when attention literally becomes a byproduct, which the system is trying to suck out of you, looking into alternative ways of healing yourself, going into a good environment, going into nature. This is, if you talk to a genuine energy healer, this is what they will subscribe to you. So keep doing this so your energy, your flow, your current never gets blocked. If it's point of no return, then yeah, they will give you a session.
I mean, I do get what you're referring to. I have questions, but
I was giving you an example of a case where the heart has warped, where an energy healer is essential. It's no different than going to a surgeon for a heart surgery. But this surgery is of your consciousness, how it's flowing through the body. So it's not necessary for these kind of symptoms to appear as a physical disorder. The person would be experiencing these things on their own, in their inner world. It won't show in their bodies. That's where you draw the line there. That's why someone who's facing like continuous chest pain for like 5 years, but there's nothing showing up on MRI scans or any CT scans. That's where the energy healer comes in, because how that person is perceiving reality, how he's processing it, is actually creating a knot in his energy field.
would the heartbreak syndrome, people who literally die of heartbreak, would that fall into this?
Your heart has over 40,000 neurons. Your heart is responsible for processing your thoughts, emotions. It's literally a regulator between your brain and your gut. If thoughts in your head don't make sense with your emotions, the body will go into chaos and you'll die. This is documented. Elephants die from this. They have been documented to die from heartbreaks. Human beings, no big deal, man. Damn. It's a fact. I've had patients I'd had to interact with where I had to pull the handbrake and say, I can't help you. You need a professional. You need an energy healer. Just by talking and mind mapping, this won't resolve. Your body is in denial.
So, I mean, but how does this really work, this healing, this polishing? Like, what actually polishes the mirror, and practically speaking?
If we talk in terms of Sufi technology, they have a few methods. They derive it from the Quran. I'll only refer to those, okay? Let me give you 4 of them. Okay? The first one is Zikr. And as someone who has a lot of background with sound and sound design, Zikr is literally you generating a frequency through sound to trigger a consciousness. Okay, it works like a charm. You see this happening all the time if you're listening to a piece of music on repeat. Even if you turn that track off, after a while you will keep hearing that sound in your head. So the Sufis engineered this exact technology by using Zikr. They know exactly what the consciousness byproduct of the sound would be. They've done extensive research on it by experimentations. But even if you don't want to go that deep, just basic sounds, Allahu and stuff like that. Okay, the 4 kalmas. If you recite them with pure awareness, Zikr is not just, holding your breath and reciting one sentence 50, 20, 100 times. It's breathing life into the sound. That's pure Zikr. Like if I'm saying La ilaha illallah, I inhale on La ilaha, hold it for a second, and then exhale and say illallah. Because what then happens is the sound itself creates a sense of longing in you. And that longing becomes so heavy duty that it becomes easier to bypass your own personality. You can achieve all of this just by Zikr. Just make sure when you're doing it, you're in a calm place, nobody's there to disturb you, or nobody would freak out. If you have disappeared for 2 or 3 hours just closing your eyes. Even closing your eyes isn't that important. As important is being consciously aware of what you're saying and feel that sound. This is proper technology. You can see this in pretty much every tradition. Hindus have their mantras. The monks have their chants. This is what they're doing. Even today, if you're from an atheistic mindset, this is what you're doing by using music, making a playlist, generating certain frequencies in you to make sure you keep going. This is literally either polishing the mirror or rusting the mirror, depending on what frequencies you have on repeat. Okay? The second one is Murakaba. Now, this is a hardcore word, but what it means is stillness. That's it. Okay? Being still. This is one of the most painful things to do. Trust me, I've tried. You need a reason to move. And when you try to sit still, all those reasons within your body will bombard and will attack you like demons.
Yeah.
There's a term called facing your demons. That is what applies here. You need to justify every single thing which is, bubbling up inside you. See where it's coming from. Is it coming from the inside, or did I copy it from someone? And when you completely still yourself, you will come to the same conclusion Zikr will bring you at. You will realize you are nothing but just observation. Everything else is moving on its own. You're either going along with it or going off. And stillness is again something you should practice every day if you want to make sure that you never sink out of reality, what your perception of reality is. And we'll get to that. Because the third one is literally, I always have issues reciting this in Arabic, but what you need is good company. You need to have, I get a bit emotional when I come to this word, Subha, but Sohbat, or, having a gang. I come from a joint family system background, so having at least 2 or 3 people you can just go and be silent with. Cannot tell you how therapeutic that is.
What's a joint family system?
Joint family system is multiplying the nuclear family system. Your aunts and uncles are living with you as well.
All of you?
All of them. Wow. You have more people to cling on to or fall back to. You have a good support system because in the end, their family. And they won't harm you after a certain extent, at least. If the harm is there, it will be intellectual or emotional. It won't be physical.
Yeah, it's how family hurts each other.
Okay, just take this concept and apply this to your polishing of the mirror. You need to be around such people who are already polished. So just being around them will generate your own self to polish the mirror. It will be more or less picking up their frequency and absorbing it into you. Because why do you feel safe around your family? Because they feel safe around you. It's a bilateral relationship, right? So if you want to polish the mirror faster, you need to be around people who are on the same scale, on the same mindset as a soul family. Okay? That's how I see the word Subha or Sohbat or gang. Because I've always had a gang. Even right now I do. It's a very small gang, but it helps. And I think the best gang you can have is your own personal family. Once you achieve your own personal family, that is when you go into Khalwa. And that's, there are so many terms I can use to explain this. I don't know which one to choose. You just have to let go of everything, like everything. Even what you're seeing, what you're feeling, even your breath. Like go into a dark room. I don't know if anybody remembers those dark rooms where you would go and try to, develop a photograph. Use 2 or 3 colors. None of those, 2 or 3 chemicals. None of those chemicals on their own would have any color. But as you start mixing them, a 2D representation of the 3D world will come into place. That is what Khalwa is about. Okay, you need to literally sit with yourself and go completely dark. This doesn't really mean literally dark. Like, you as a self should not have anything left to say. Once you achieve this isolation, this is also referred in Hermetism. That is when you actually begin to purely reflect light. That's a whole different topic into it altogether. But let's just hold on to here, okay? These are the 4 best methods you can use to polish the mirror, okay?
Interesting. So good company, repetition of something that you can cling on to, a dark room. And what was the 4th one again?
Murakaba, stillness.
Stillness, facing your demons. So a good company, facing your demons. Zikr, repeating something.
Yeah. Well, Zikr, the term is literally used as a word for remembrance. You're not just repeating something, you're remembering something. And the sounds used in Zikr, like these kalmas, even the Mongolian chants and stuff like that, there are some sounds which will create a sense of longing in you. And let me share a funny fact with you. This is funny to me because when the Chandra Observatory at NASA tried to calculate the most least audibly classifiable sound coming out from the universe, it was a B flat. This B flat is 54 to 57 octaves below human hearing level. And this is apparently the oldest sound which has been coming out of the universe since it was created. You know what the B flat is?
No.
Every single Qawwali starts with a B flat.
Qawwali.
Qawwali
Interesting.
is a traditional form of music. It's on the western. It's mostly on the eastern side. Pure Eastern Qawwali is always in appreciation and longing for the beloved. Usually, the beloved is a spiritual person. It's not a romantic connection, and they always use B flat. B flat is one of those notes which a very very renowned Kabbalist by the name of Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan. You'll find him on YouTube very easily. This was one of his most favorite notes. However, he didn't perform in this note mostly. But if you really dig deep and find the tracks, the rags he really enjoyed playing, they're in B flat. B flat is literally the frequency of longing. If anyone and has basic knowledge of music and has tried playing chords, they will know what I'm talking about.
All right. So let's say your mirror is completely clean, right? So you do all these things, you get to a place where your mirror is completely clean. Then what do you experience? What happens then?
Oh my. Okay. I can explain it in terms of a metaphor, but this experience is unique to everyone. Okay? Now, if you are reflecting light and pure light, now I'm talking about one of those mirrors which are pre industrialization, like it's made of brass or it's made of iron, what will happen? It'll start to heat up. In a way, the mirror now becomes an extension of the light. It's not only reflecting it, it's participating in its manifestation by absorbing its temperature. This is how you apply it. This is how you can at max understand what's going to happen once the mirror is clean. Because you don't just reflect God's light, you absorb it and you glow with it. And this glow, in the beginning, can only be felt, but someone who actually lets go of their self completely, this glow will appear on their faces as well. This has nothing to do with skin color, I assure you. Okay, you see this glow in children all the time. It's nothing unique. A truly happy child glowing with joy, that's enlightenment right there. And enlightenment comes to you once you let go of yourself. Like look at a child till the age of like 3 or 4. You will feel enlightenment coming out of the child. They will almost do things which can be stupid at times, but then miraculously wisdom wise as well.
Yeah, that is true.
That is what you experience. Now, depending on what your own personal path is, where you are in life. Are you an accountant? Are you a filmmaker? Are you working in a call center? Are you like into remote work? Are you just, crunching numbers? This will create a divine kind of a glow for your own personal path. How else do I explain? I can go on and on about like personal examples of how people changed, how they perceived things.
So, where does this path take someone? A polished mirror. Where would that someone go once they get to that level?
Your whole life is a process. And this process creates what we call experiences. That is the maximum I can explain. Because those experiences, whenever put into words, they become either poetry or science or magic. But the one thing we truly want is to connect with someone we fully feel connected to. There is a kind of longing in every single human being, and that longing you try to initially fulfilled by validation. You either buy products, and after that you buy labels, authority, stuff like that. But that longing truly gets satisfied when you properly reflect what this mirror, what this Qalb is designed for. And that level of experience, again, the Sufis have endless amount of poetry on it. Mass media filmmaking has a lot of stories on longing, but it's something you experience. And once you do, you will never want to come back.